everyone is using chatbots and everyone is building intuition about what chatbots are good for. But you still have to go to a place and go type and talk to the thing, and then you have to copy and paste the stuff out of that place. The second modality of AI everyone should be using is a copilot. A copilot means you're in a productivity tool trying to create something, an email, a website, whatever, a document, whatever it might be, and you have an AI assistant that lives within that tool and is helping you do it. And an agent is different from a chatbot and a copilot in one fundamental way. You don't go to a place to collaborate with it live. Once you've given the AI agent instructions, it works on your behalf.
Hi, I'm Greg Stewart, CEO of MMA Global, the international nonprofit trade association for CMOs who are focused on architecting a new future of marketing.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, market researcher, measurement inventor, and entrepreneur. So Greg, unfortunately, I think we're still looking for the killer app when it comes to AI marketing, right? Are we still on that quest?
Yeah, absolutely, Rex. Listen, you and I both lived through the same thing. So, and this is a Wayback Machine for everybody. So I'm sorry, I'm going to age myself with probably our very young listeners. But it's like, listen, for email, internet was all about email. For mobile, it became all about apps. It was pretty clear. I think Uber for marketers became like the killer app because when you started to understand how customer experience has so dramatically changed because of mobile device and what they did with that was just sort of revolutionary. I mean, those were sort of the big conversations with some of the board there. I'm not really sure we have the answer here, although maybe today we're going to step close to it. That's what I'm kind of interested in. Listen, we had that guy. Remember that guy from Google? I don't remember his name right now, but he came on and said that the killer app was personalization. That's where he left us, right?
Gopi, yep. He was that personalization, definitely. I think the other one that's been really interesting is there's a paper from Microsoft about how the firm of the future is all about people who are managing agents. So it's about finding that right span of control of how many agents report to you and how well and effectively you are at managing that. And I think our guest today can really help us unpack that. He had a wonderful blog. I think, Greg, you were the one who shared it with me.
Yeah.
I shared it with my CMO at Claritas, and he replied back, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a lot of those things too." But it was just like this aha moment, which is we are starting to see AI agent employees in the marketing department, and our guest today has a technology that's helping people make that happen, right?
Great, exactly, Rex. And so today is the CEO founder of Relay.app. He's got other sort of businesses that he built too, and it's a tool that's really focused on helping you customize or develop custom AI agents. And his goal is to make this really easy. So we're going to talk kind of step to step. I think we're going to get very fundamental today. So Jacob Bank, glad you could join us.
Thanks so much.
Good. In fact, Jacob, what happened, right? If you remember, or maybe you didn't see what happened from my side. I had seen your LinkedIn post that says, here's my org chart for my 40 agents that run marketing. And I thought, 40 agents. So let me first send it to my AI guy. Then let me get a hold of Jacob and get him on the podcast. But Jacob, tell more about what you did in that post. To me, that was pivotal. If you got another place to start with Relay.app, go ahead. But that's the one that got my attention.
Yeah. First, it's embarrassing that I'm going to be speaking about marketing in front of marketing experts because I have no background in marketing. My background is in AI research.
Yeah, that's okay. We don't think the people in marketing are that good at marketing, so you're pretty much okay. It's okay,
So once upon a time, I was an AI researcher. I thought I was going to become a professor of computer science. My research was always at the intersection of AI and productivity tools. This was back in like 2010, 2011, and the general sentiment at the time was AI is never going to be useful for productivity tools. That was the sentiment as recently as 3 years ago, by the way. But that was my area of research. How can AI be useful in the context of productivity? At the time, there was pretty much just one example of AI that was relevant in productivity tools, which was the Gmail spam filter. That was the only one that most of us had experienced back in 2010. There were many others behind the scenes. Some of Google search was powered with machine learning at the time. There were some other Chrome extensions that were starting to come onto the market, like Grammarly, that would inject some spelling and grammar advice into your browser. So my background is in AI research and productivity tools. My first company was an AI-powered digital calendar. We were acquired by Google. And then I spent 6 years at Google, where I led product for Google Calendar, Gmail, and several of the other large productivity tools.
Hey, Jacob, not to get you distracted, I want to get you distracted. Wait, did you just say you basically built a product feature for Gmail, then they hired you to install it? Is that what you kind of just said?
So my startup was a mobile application called Timeful, which was a digital calendar and to-do list in one. and you would tell the digital calendar, I want to spend 2 hours doing research this morning. I want to run every day. I want to have one-on-ones at this cadence with my team, and it would automatically schedule it for you. And then Google acquired our company with the idea that that technology would be folded into Gmail and Google Calendar.
Oh, okay, funny.
And that's how I got into that role. And then I've been working on this startup Relay.app for the last 3 years, now 4 years actually. And I always knew that we had a pretty strong technical team. Some of the best engineers, designers I had worked with in my time in Gmail. But we had no idea about marketing, how to market it. Because in my previous startup, life was much simpler. We were a mobile app launching in the App Store in 2012, 2013, and you could just kind of launch and get and if Apple featured you, you would get hundreds of thousands or millions of downloads.
Right.
And then by the time I took over Gmail, I think I did good work on Gmail, but by the time I took over, there were already 800 million users. And so yeah, we grew 800 million to 2.5 billion, but still, like, it was very different from the starting from scratch problem of marketing. And so I was trying to figure out what is going to be the right approach to marketing. And I read a couple of books that taught me a lot. The Mom Test taught me a lot about foundational customer interviews. Traction by Gabriel Weinberg taught me a lot about the different channels that a startup may want to pursue. And my first instinct was, well, I don't know marketing. Let me go hire someone who knows marketing. That's what we're supposed to do, right? When we don't have strength in something, we should go find some external expert who does have a strength in that thing and hire them. And we hired sort of a rotating carousel of 5 or 6 or 7 marketing contractors or fractional marketers or interim marketers that were helping us run these channel experiments, whether it was in SEO or organic social or paid ads or outreach. And none of those things worked at all. And I don't blame the specific marketers that we hired. We just hadn't figured out how to position the product yet, how to message it, who the customer was for the product, et cetera. And we were trying to jump ahead to solve a problem with hiring when we hadn't solved the core positioning and business problem of what it was we were making and who it was for and why it was valuable.
Hey, Rex, it's nice he's giving us a little bit of a pass as marketers on that. Isn't that what he just did? Well, it's like he's trying to make excuses why we don't know what the hell we're doing. But go ahead, Jacob. Yeah.
But I think it is, you're talking about product market fit and how you're challenged with that, and you're trying different challenges. But if you don't have the right product market fit, the right motivations and message, which is something Greg and I wrote about in our first book, about if you don't get the motivations right for why somebody would want to buy it, then nothing else downstream works.
Right. It's complicated, Jacob. Yeah. Okay, but you're in this process.
Okay, yep, keep going.
And then I felt like for the first time I kind of cracked it along a couple of dimensions. We started to write some SEO articles that were bottom of funnel content that were performing. We started to do some partner marketing that was working well. We really started to break out on organic LinkedIn. I wrote some posts that got a lot of attention and traction. And each time a channel would work, I thought to myself, is it time where with this channel we should hire a channel expert to make that their full-time job? Should we hire a full-time webinar person? Should we hire a full-time YouTube video person? Should we hire a full-time organic social media content creator? Should we hire a full-time SEO person? Because these were all channels that, in our nascent company were doing well. Yeah. And maybe back in the 2021 way of thinking about company building, we would have done that. But instead, in the 2025 way of company building,
drum roll, please. I think AI is coming.
Yeah. Well, 2021 was just before AI was on anyone's radar. 2021, like ChatGPT didn't come out till December of 2022, November 2022. And so 2021 was still very much all the tech companies were riding the pandemic highs in terms of valuation, and people were hiring like crazy. And it was very, very easy for venture-backed startups to raise money. And so the solution was always like, we must scale. Just money is free. Just throw it at people. Whereas I think the 2025 mentality is different along 2 dimensions. The biggest dimension is that we now all treat AI as the first tool we should consult in our toolbox when we want to achieve more, rather than hiring more people. And then second, I think we've begun to recognize the value of very small mission-aligned teams that have a lot of autonomy and can often outperform companies that are much larger because of the bureaucracy and process and entrenched interests that make it hard for large companies to look, for example, at the example of Cursor versus GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot was first to market. GitHub Copilot has a team of I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of engineers at Microsoft work on GitHub, and they've been beaten. At least they were beaten in the, I don't know if this will last forever, but certainly over the last year and a half, they've been soundly beaten by Cursor, even when Cursor was a team of like 6 MIT grads.
Okay, so Jacob, so let's break this down though for the market. Let's go back here. I want to. So this is really interesting, and I can only imagine the listener at this point is like, "Oh my God, what's the answer?" Like, what am I? Okay, so the point that you're making is, let me see if I get this right. The point you're making is that so maybe relate it back. So how does be real fundamental? I think be real fundamental. Or actually, if you have a better question, please feel free and production cut this out. But it's like, I think, Jacob, like, be real fundamental. Like, what are you advocating that marketers or marketing departments need to do now?
Right. What I'm advocating for is we should optimize for much smaller teams of people, augmented by AI.
Okay.
And the reason I say smaller teams of people is not because I want a lot of people to lose their jobs. Of course not. The reason I say small teams of people is smaller teams are way happier and more productive than larger teams. There's lots of research on this. They have more autonomy.
But what are they doing though? So I understand the fundamentals of that. And listen, that's a little hard because listen, I got some of my board members doing
a very concrete
thousand
example. So I made this post.
Yeah.
So in each of those cases, like I mentioned, I was considering a higher person, and in every case, I decided no, it should actually just be me plus AI agents that are achieving the goal.
That. Yep.
So I'll give you an example of webinars specifically.
Good.
Many enterprise marketing departments run a webinar motion of some sort.
We do, and my guy better be listening right now. Go ahead. Yep.
And so a webinar typically has several components. You need to decide on the topic. You need to do the mechanics of scheduling it. You need to promote it both to your newsletter and on social media, and potentially co-promote it with partners. You need to send out an email to your newsletter. You need to coordinate with product or product marketing to demonstrate new features. When the webinar is done, you need to coordinate with sales and marketing to collect all the leads and follow up and send the recording of the materials and then potentially turn it into a sales conversation. And so I'd say for a typical SaaS company, a webinar is at least a one-person job, like a webinar, but then probably the webinar person is coordinating with a product marketing person and a PR and comms person and maybe several other people.
Okay.
And everyone who's ever put on a webinar knows how frustrating that can be, where you need to get an approval from 3 different people before you can send the promotional email out, or you need 7 people to weigh in on the draft of the topic before you can actually schedule the thing. Here's my webinar process. I go into our Relay.app events, Google Calendar, and I create a calendar event. And in the calendar event, I write in the title the topic of the webinar. For example, I have a webinar coming up in a couple days, which is about monitoring Reddit for brand relevant conversations. It was actually a super relevant topic for marketers, monitoring Reddit. Once I put in that calendar event, here's what my AI agents do for me. They automatically create a schedule, a form where people can sign up. They automatically send an email to our newsletter promoting the event. They automatically post from my LinkedIn promoting the event. When someone signs up, they automatically get a confirmation email. They automatically get a reminder 3 hours before the meeting. After the meeting, they automatically get the YouTube recording. When the meeting is processed, we automatically generate a YouTube description and a YouTube thumbnail. All I have to do is click the upload button and post it. A week later, a summary email goes out to our newsletter. The attendance is tracked automatically. Every lead we may want to follow up with is automatically enriched and teed up with me for a personalized email. And so what I've been able to achieve with just me plus AI, all I have to do is come up with an idea for the webinar and then show up and do the presentation live.
Yep. So what you've executed is a really elegant AI agentic workflow or just workflow period in this because you already knew this type of marketing issue is a rinse and repeat. That all you're really changing is the content, but the process is the same, right? I mean, this is really what Procter & Gamble did that was so revolutionary 30 years ago, was that they had a binder in a book and said, this is how you run a brand.
Right.
You're now turning that into the agentic future where you're saying anything that can be a checklist, anything that can be these lists, and there's a lot of that in marketing, really shouldn't be a person, it should be an agent. Is that right?
When possible. And now a key point is, how does your agent know when it needs a human to help it? So I'm not advocating at all for AI slop, low quality AI content published on social media, on your blog, not at all.
Yep.
I think there still needs to be human insight that underlies the comment for
Yeah,
sure.
but your insight was, what is the topic going to be?
Exactly.
And then
So in
you
the case of
created
the
that, and
webinar,
everything else was
I'm
downstream.
providing two things. I provide the topic of the webinar, and then I provide the live presentation, which
Yep.
those two things need to be human. Everything else, it turns out, not only can AI do as well as I can, AI can do better. I'll give you an example of this. I was on vacation last week, so I paused the AI agent for the webinar because I didn't have a webinar to promote. So I said, don't do anything this week because I don't have anything to promote. I'm on vacation. I'm not doing a webinar. And I was like, oh shoot, I actually do have a webinar, so I need to manually write an email for next week because I had turned off the agent. And then when I wrote the manual email, it had a typo on the date. And then all the replies I got were like, oh, is it Wednesday or Tuesday? And so I think I want to make 2 points. I'm trying to make 2 points with this webinar example. One is AI is extremely capable. AI is extremely capable. It can write very good LinkedIn posts. It can write very good newsletters. It can do very good lead enrichment and very good lead qualification. It can do very good personalized follow-up. It can write very good YouTube descriptions. It can create very good YouTube thumbnails. It can do a lot of things really, really well, especially if you have the right sort of human-in-the-loop oversight. That's the first point I want to make. And the second point I want to make is working in an environment where I have this much autonomy is an absolute joy. Because I just get to focus on the work and the content and what I'm producing. And I don't have to worry about the 7 pre-meetings before the webinar or the 6 people that I need to coordinate with or getting 3 approvals on the email. I get the combination of, because this was always the trade-off, right? A smaller team has more autonomy, creativity, flexibility, but less leverage, right? And that's always the trade-off. And so you always need to hire the crazy thing that now exists is you can have all that same freedom, autonomy, creativity that a single person would have with the leverage of a team. It's totally amazing.
Yes. Okay. So Jacob, listen, I'm not so sure that, my big marketers, I mean, some of them have marketing departments of 3,000 people. So, they're not going to be able to distill that down to 6 people anytime soon and get control of the
Certainly
thing.
not.
And listen, they're going to have so many lawyers and in some of those cases, regulatory bodies over us. So let's hold that for a moment because I love the small team thing and MMA will implement that for you. So good. Let's come back, though. Can you just make sure and explain, Phil, what exactly, what is Relay.app doing so people are anchored in what you actually accomplished? Because I'm not sure everybody here knows yet. I do because I've used it. But go ahead. Yeah.
Let me, I don't want to make this an ad for Relay.app, so let me talk about
make it an ad. Make it an ad, Jacob. Okay. That's okay. I'm asking you to actually explain the product and make sure that people are clear. Because, listen, that's all good. I mean, people are looking for solutions here.
There are 3 ways we should all be using AI.
Okay.
Every single person should be using 3 categories of AI tool. Number 1, we should all be using a chatbot. Probably everyone listening has used ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini.
I was shocked to hear OpenAI say they have 700 weekly customers or weekly visitors.
700
million. Yeah. Sorry, did I get that wrong? Yeah, 700 million. That was crazy how big it is.
It's Google search scale.
It's beyond anything I could have imagined would be at this stage.
And then you add Gemini, Claude, Copilot. Yeah, everyone should use chatbot.
You spend any time outside the valley, even it's very. I mean, listen. I want to try to say this in a way that's not going to get me a bunch of nasty comments, but even housewives are using ChatGPT. It's really crazy what's happened here.
Is a ubiquitous product.
Yeah,
so everyone is using chatbots and everyone is building intuition about what chatbots are good for. They're great for research use cases. They're great for intellectual sparring and thought partnership. They're great for some one-off content creation use cases. But you still have to go to a place and go type and talk to the thing. And then you have to copy and paste the stuff out of that place.
Got it.
The second modality of AI everyone should be using is a Copilot. Some folks on the call have probably played with Grammarly, like I mentioned over the years. Grammarly is a little Chrome extension that lives within your browser and helps you write emails.
Yeah, everybody in business would know what I would think. Right.
Another example of a Copilot is if you've used any of the vibe coding tools like Lovable. Probably some of the marketers in your audience have used a Lovable or a Bolt or a V0 where on the left-hand side, it's a chat box, and on the right-hand side, it's the website that you're kind of creating live. And so a Copilot means you're in a productivity tool trying to create something, an email, a website, a document, whatever it might be, and you have an AI assistant that lives within that tool and is helping you do it. So that's chatbots and copilots. Those are destinations that you go to and you collaborate with AI live in real time. What Relay.app builds is an agent, and an agent is different from a chatbot and a copilot in one fundamental way. You don't go to a place to collaborate with it live. You're not having a live interactive conversation with a chatbot. You're not interacting with Grammarly as you're typing an email. Once you've given the AI agent instructions, it works on your behalf. So you do need to configure the agent. So let's take that webinar, the webinar example once again.
Yeah. I want you to go through that whole example, what that means, because I use you. I know what you're doing.
I have configured an agent
Yep.
that is listening for whenever I schedule a new event on that event's calendar.
Okay.
And as soon as it hears, there's a new webinar upcoming, one of my agents is the LinkedIn webinar promoter. And that one I've set to, I always like to promote my webinars on LinkedIn 4 days before, because I found that 4 days before is just the right amount of time. It's enough time for lead time, but not too long that people forget about it. So that agent wakes up 4 days before. It says, cool, what is the topic of the webinar I'm promoting? Let me look at that from the calendar event. Let me write a LinkedIn post promoting that webinar. And it writes that post based on the topic of the new webinar and examples of previous posts I or it has written before. And it can look at the engagement of previous posts to know which perform best.
And Jacob, you gave it these directions to do that, right? You set up a series
and
and
the best way to think about how you configure it is like drawing a flow chart.
Yep.
And many people in your audience are probably familiar with workflow tools, whether it's Zapier or Make.com or the built-in email sequence builder in HubSpot. Those are all flowchart and workflow creation tools. The fundamental techniques in an AI agent are exactly the same, with one key difference. There are going to be points in that flowchart where AI does something for you. So traditional flowcharts were totally deterministic. Whereas in a modern agentic workflow, there are places where the agent has autonomy to decide what it wants to do next. So in this example, the decision to wake up 4 days before the webinar and start promoting it, that has been encoded in the flowchart, just like you'd encode an email marketing sequence that we've been doing for decades. What's interesting then is that instead of having a pre-canned post or having a step where the human needs to create the newsletter promotion, the LinkedIn promotion post, the AI automatically drafts it. And to get the AI there's a whole set of techniques you use to get your AI to be good at drafting content. You give it knowledge of past stuff that you've done that's worked well. You give it context and what the purpose of this is. So it drafts it. It drafts the post. It also creates an image. AI has become very good at image generation. It also creates an image promoting the post. Don't bother posting on LinkedIn if you're not going to include an image. Like you have to include an image, otherwise you'll get 1/100th of the reach. So it drafts the post. It does an image. Then this particular AI agent has a human in the loop step, because I like to review these posts before they're posted. So it sends me a message in Slack and says, hey, I've drafted your post for the upcoming webinar. Here's the post content. Here's the image. Do you approve? Can I go ahead and post it, or do you want to edit it before it goes out? If I click approve, it then posts it automatically. And so my experience was I went into this workflow builder, this flowchart builder, which is our tool, Relay.app.
Yep.
I designed this workflow. I said, here's where I want the AI to be doing something. Here's where I want myself, the human in the loop, to check in to make sure the content is good. But then once that thing is turned on, I rarely need to go check the configuration again.
Wow.
All I need to do is wait for the message to be sent to me in Slack, and then I either approve or I go edit the post.
So I have so many questions. I don't know, Rex, if you want to go before or wherever, but it's like, okay, so what Relay.app is what have you built that then allows that to happen for the marketer who doesn't know how to code an agent, for example? Yeah.
Right, and that's our approach. So there is a variety of different agent building tools in the market. Our approach is we're trying to be the simplest and most intuitive tool for a less technical audience.
Yeah.
So in some of
Bedrock is another one.
Sorry?
Databricks has Bedrock from AWS, from Amazon.
Yeah, and
you've got
that I would say is a
Databricks,
much
you've
more,
got
that's what I would say is a much more
N8N,
technical product.
yeah, exactly. Those are ones for people who know how to code.
In our space, here are the
right?
products typically people have heard of. People have typically heard of Zapier.
Yeah.
Zapier
we just did Wade last week. Funny enough.
Exactly. Wade's awesome. Zapier's an amazing company.
So impressive. What he's 13-year overnight success. I love it with him.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's great.
And so they for a long time have been the most accessible workflow automation tool for non-technical users.
Okay.
They are now, like we are, integrating AI and agentic capabilities into their workflows. Relay.app, our goal is to be even easier to use and more intuitive than Zapier is. Because in Zapier, for those who have used Zapier, you'll still need to kind of know what an API is and what an ID is, and you might need to know what a webhook is, and you might need to know what a JSON object is. And these are all technical terms that they're not super advanced coding that you need to study computer science for a decade to know, but you do need to be comfortable with some technical concepts. So we're trying to build the most intuitive tool. Another tool that I'm sure your audience has heard of, because they just raised a round at a $3 billion valuation last week, is N8N. N8N.io.
That's the one that our developers use at
exactly.
Claritas,
They're in the same category as Relay.app
but even more technical,
and Zapier. But they've tried to build a more flexible and powerful tool for a technical audience. So you really got to know a bit of coding. You need to know JSON. You need to know webhooks. You need to know HTTP requests. And so what we're trying to do at Relay.app is build the simplest tool for non-technical users. And so what that means is...
And i.e.
marketers.
Marketers are an example.
HR.
Marketers are... We have users who are less technical than marketers.
Come on. That can't be the case. I've never heard of such a thing.
We have contractors.
Rex, I don't know.
We have contractors, we have real estate agents, we have school administrators, we have
real estate. Okay, real estate agents. You're right.
You nailed it for Greg.
Because my wife is a real estate agent, so you're right. They are less technical, but less technical than marketers.
So what we want creating an agent to be as easy as creating a flowchart on paper, because we've all created flowcharts. Like, imagine when you're explaining to a new hire their job description. You've probably written some sort of flowchart for them, which is like, if Greg's available, get his approval. If Greg's not available, get Rex's approval. And whether you've written that out in text or whether you've written it out in flowchart form, it's fundamentally a flowchart.
Yeah. And I love the idea of, I said, this was going to be the year of workflows, because as people began to really want to use AI, you have to begin to organize your thinking and your execution into checklists and workflows. And if you can do that, and I think your gift to the industry is making it so easy that it lowers that intimidation factor, because the reality is, N8N is intimidating when you go into the complexity of what you have to grab and configure and do, and the easier you make it, the more accessible you make it.
It's hard for not. Can I make one quick point on workflows versus agents? Because this is a question I get all the
time. Actually, I wanted to ask about this.
I think it's a really important.
Really important.
When I say agent, what I mean is an autonomous system that works on your behalf, unlike a chatbot or a copilot where you have to go type in a website or go pull up an app on your phone. An agent is something that is working on your behalf behind the scenes. There's a technical difference between a workflow and an agent that you'll hear people talk about. I'll tell you first what the difference is and then why I think it's silly. The difference is who creates the flowchart and when. So this webinar example, I have a flowchart where 4 days before I do this post. In a workflow, the human pre-creates the flowchart and says 4 days before you do this, 3 hours before you do this, 3 hours after you do this. And there could be some AI judgment in each of those steps, but fundamentally the flowchart is defined in advance by the human. When people say agentic, or the technical definition of an agent is that the AI creates the flowchart on the fly based on a goal and a set of tools. So in a true agent, an agentic system, what you would say is, Greg, your mission is to promote this webinar. The tools you have available to you are you can write emails, you can write LinkedIn posts. Go. So an agent, do you see the difference there? The agent is given a goal, control. But the AI is, and so that's the difference. When people say something is more agentic, they mean they've ceded more of the control to the AI. When they say something is more workflowy, they mean they've predefined more of the process. Now, and there's huge...
And there really is a continuum here, because
that's
within that point, yeah, exactly. And that's how people should think about it.
Because there's this big debate of like, that's just a workflow, or that's a real agent. And of course, it's a continuum, because in every workflow I build today, there's some step where I ask the AI to make a decision or to do something.
Sure, writing your blog post based upon the context of previous is a decision the AI is making. It has tools to be able to do that, but it's within a workflow that makes it far more controllable and visible, which I think is a good trade-off.
And that agent example I gave you was just like promote the webinar. Can you imagine hiring a junior marketer on your team and just saying promote the webinar?
Scares the shit out of me just hearing you say it right now.
You would never do that. You would give them some guidance.
Horrified.
You
I
give
wouldn't
them
let
some
people with
guidance.
under
You
5
say-
years of experience on my property alone. No, absolutely
Yeah.
not. You can't do that. Yes.
You would
No.
give them some guidance. You would say, here's
Yeah.
the target audience we're trying
Yeah.
to reach. Here's
So
some
many
examples of
things.
our past webinars. Here's the typical cadence of when we post on LinkedIn and you might give them a little bit of flexibility to like post a day earlier or a day later or include a new kind of emoji. Like you want to give I'm not saying that you need to fully regiment every single character they write, but you need to get, so the message I want to give to CMOs is that you should think about training AI agents in the same way you think about training human employees. Because I've seen a lot of people have false negative bad experience. We're like, oh, I signed up for this agent and I gave it a 1-sentence prompt to write a great blog post about marketing and all I got back was AI slop. It's like, well, yeah, you gave it a 1-sentence prompt on a generic topic. Don't be surprised. Like if you gave a college intern
try that in a
prompt,
job interview and see what you get out of it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And so
You got to train people first.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so training an AI agent is just like training a human. You give them a flow chart, you give them a goal, but you also give them a flow chart of like, here's what a typical webinar promotion looks like. Here's what a typical partner conference looks like. Here's what a typical landing page overhaul looks like. Here's the process we typically follow for our SEO optimized blog posts. Here's the typical process we follow for in-person events or trade shows. Here are the steps involved. Here's the documents you need to create. Here's the emails you need to write.
The challenge, Jacob, is that a lot of people haven't actually thought about how they do things. It's sort of like somebody who can throw together a nice dinner, but if you ask them for the recipe card, they're like, I don't have that written down, and it takes them some effort to go through and think about it. I think that the payoff is huge, though, because if you start with workflows, you can always make them more and more and more agentic over time, and give more and create more and more capabilities that are that may surpass the maybe the 4-day rule that you put in is the right rule. Maybe it's not, but I bet next year, Jacob, if not by the end of this year, you probably will add a research agent that will begin to tweak and adjust. Is it 5 days? Is it 3 days? Does it depend on the topic or not? And now you can begin to layer on top of the workflow.
Exactly right. Maybe
you have to start
webinars,
somewhere.
Maybe for some webinars, I want to do 2 posts promoting them because
That's
I think
right.
they
That's
would
right.
reach 2 different audiences in some way. So I totally agree on that point. The reason, let me push back slightly on the assertion that people don't have everything documented enough to do this. I think, Rex, you're mostly right. You're mostly right, which is that the reason people haven't been able to use Zapier to its full potential is that to use Zapier to its full potential, historically, you'd have had to really have detailed SOPs for every single element of the business. Because AI is increasingly capable, you can now relax those SOPs a little bit. Because
I agree with you on that point.
You
You
used
can
to have
have-
to
yeah.
say, write the post in exactly this way, and you'd have to spell it out in super
No,
great
now you
detail.
can say, here's 3 posts that I did in the past, and then it will infer from that what the patterns are. And
And
figure
now
it out.
all
I
you
agree
need
with
to
you.
say is just like write 3 posts like this. And the reason I think hiring AI agents is so natural is like really great managers. And this is why that point I think you were making earlier about we're all going to become managers. We all need to learn management skills because we're all going to be managers of AI agents. Really good managers are good at this, right? Really good managers are great at writing job descriptions and figuring out which roles they need taken. They're great at designing org charts of how the different job functions are going to fit together into a larger team. When they hire someone, they're great at providing the onboarding context for that person. They're great at kind of setting up the right cadence of check-ins and meetings and kind of like levels of delegation depending on the person. And so I think
what you just described, though, is actually more rare in management than we need it to become. Because I think what happens a lot of times is people will design an org chart that is the typical tree with this person here, and then you have all these other people in the next layer below. And that, in fact, isn't how work actually functions. Right. It works more the way you described it as a flow chart, which are what's the jobs to be done.
Yeah.
And where do we want people to have discretion or be able to make decisions and research it? And where do we want them to follow policy? And so I think what you've described, and I think part of what's exciting about your product is it's getting people used to using a new interface for work and productivity that isn't just this org chart alone. It's really the workflow and how work gets done. What do you think about that? Is that a fair, or am I getting it wrong?
No, I think that's right. Certainly in the individual kind of responsibility level, thinking of it in terms of workflow is great. I think you still do need to, at some point, come up with some sort of hierarchy of your business goals and then translate that into which responsibilities need to be taken on. That's less flowcharty and more org charty. I think you need both visualizations. The way I think the workplace is going, let me give a very concrete example for a CMO who's considering their headcount allocation for the next year. I think there's going to be less of two types of roles and more of a third type of role. If you have a JD, a job description out right now, for a junior content marketer, that all they do is they take a brief of a blog post, they turn it into a full text blog post, and they get approved by someone, I don't think that job is going to exist anymore. If
why should it when you have an AI that could do that so much better and faster?
I think that job is going to be replaced by AI because you will not need a junior writer who can just take a brief and write content. The second role that I think is less likely to exist is if someone is only good at managing people and cannot actually review the quality of the work and architect the flowcharts of the work, I think that kind of role is going to.
Yeah, we've heard the term tastemaker. That that AI requires people to. In my previous
corporate life, I worked with a lot of people who were just pure people managers that wouldn't really have strong opinions about the design of the product or the marketing campaign. They were just really good at doing performance reviews and recruiting people. I think that kind of job is going to become less important in the same way that the junior content writer is going to become less important. The role that I think is going to become dramatically more important is in engineering, you would have called this a tech lead manager. I don't know if there's an equivalent in marketing, but it's someone who typically has a team of 4 to 10 people under them, but they are still also responsible for doing functional work. In the case of an engineer, writing code. So in the case of a marketer, let's say if you have a social media and content arm, what a tech lead manager would look like to me, or a super IC, you could call them a super IC. What they would look like in that case is they can set the strategy, they can set the vision, they can architect the different responsibilities and figure out which humans and AI agents they need to bring together to do that job. But they can still also do the work. They can still write a great post, or they know what good looks like. They can write a great post.
Yeah,
and they
back
know
to
what
the
a good post looks
tastemaker
like.
comment.
Yeah, exactly.
You have
so
to
I think
have that skill.
We're going to see fewer of the super junior order takers, few of the pure bureaucrats and people managers, and more of the tastemaker super ICs who are also really good at managing and delegating both to humans and to AI agents.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
that's
Rex, I got a funny question for you. Just it's something you maybe touched on. Would you know how you would develop tastemakers in marketing? I mean, I know what the big CMOs do, and I know that the ones Tariq and Lynn, and some of the other ones who are really phenomenal. Like they really just when you talk brand with them, it's like it's something magical.
Kellen
they
Kinney
do.
at AT&T,
Kellen, exactly. I mean, like it's unbelievable their experience and sort of getting to that. But how do you build tastemakers, by the way? Do you know?
So I have
other
two
than
theories.
painful experience.
I have two theories on this. I want to hear Jacob's thought on this as well. One is that part of what we need to be getting back from the AI agents that we have working for us, or the AI workflows that we put in place, is a feedback loop that makes us smarter and also makes the AI smarter. So when he was talking about the performance or the engagement rate or the conversion rate, so you actually begin to learn. Now, what's tricky is that there was a paper about the new researcher V2, which was the ability for AI to begin to do its own experimentation, its own research, or at least propose the own research. That hasn't really hit the marketplace yet, but I think that will over the next year. And then you get this really interesting feedback loop. And I am worried a little bit about the bet I would make about whether or not a person can consume all that information or whether or not we really have to delegate to the AI. Because I think what we saw in personalization is that you might think that light blue color background is really fire, that's great, that's going to be, and it might be for 60% of your audience. But if 40% of your audience is reacting to something different and the AI can detect that and can personalize it, then you're going to get much better results using the AI.
Yeah. So
what do you think about that,
tastemakers? It's about personalization. It's back to
First about personalization, AI, and being able to learn laterally much more broadly than humans can. What do you think, Jacob?
So Jacob, why are you giving the tastemakers a job? I think Rex just put them out of work.
Yeah, well, I really agree with what you said, Rex. Let me make 2 points that I think are interesting here. First is, I think tastemaking can be learned. I think it's a skill that we can develop. So I'll give you an example. My personal LinkedIn. This has become our #1 marketing channel, my organic LinkedIn content.
Yep.
I was not naturally good at this. I am not a social media person. I never had any personal accounts on any social networks. The first year, I spent a year posting 3 times a week on LinkedIn with no results. So I am not some naturally gifted person who's just always built to be amazing at LinkedIn.
You're not a creator influencer. Okay,
no,
got it.
It's a skill that I learned. I learned this skill in 2 ways. Number 1, by studying people who are better at it than I am. And then number 2, by analyzing my own successes and failures and improving. And for both of those 2, Rex, you're exactly right. I did not have the bandwidth to read every single high quality post on LinkedIn in the course of a week. That would be a full-time job. So I built an AI agent, which is my LinkedIn content researcher.
Of course you did.
And every week it reviews all of the top posts in areas that are relevant to me. This is kind of like overall business influencers, AI specific business influencers, AI agent creators, people that are vertical specific, like function specific, like marketing. And every week I get a set of digests sent to me of here were the top posts in this area, here were the top posts in this area, here were the top posts in this area. Here's sort of a synthesis of what this means, what kind of content is resonating. That's where I got the idea for the org chart post, because my content researcher found someone else had done an org chart post and it said, hey, there's something about this org chart concept that's resonating. Could you do a take on that? And I was like, oh yeah, I could do my take on that. And it became the most successful post in LinkedIn history. So I think those are the 2 points. Number 1, you can learn. You can learn to be a tastemaker. And the way to learn is learn from people who are better and learn from improving yourself over time and let AI help you do that.
And learn quickly, too. I mean, you didn't have to spend 10 years doing it, which is kind of the point I was making. It would actually be 20, 30 years for some of these big CMOs to get to their roles. They can do it so much faster. Hey, so Jay, just to kind of go back to Relay.app, like, listen, we're okay with you promoting the business. That's fine, because, people are here to learn. If you're a tool, I mean, you'll have to compete in the marketplace and make sure it's better than everybody else. We'll let you worry about that.
Yeah.
What is in essence happening there? Aren't you creating a series of templates, though, that people...
Yes.
You can go in and write your own. So talk a little about the template business, because that kind of gets my attention, because that should be some pattern recognition about what are marketers doing, what are they having success, what are people adapting. What can you tell marketers about that? Yeah.
So first, our model, you can reason by analogy to Lego. It's very similar. We have the Lego bricks where you can buy just a set of Lego bricks and then you can figure out how to assemble themselves. And the templates are like the preset things you can buy in the store and your kid follows the instructions to assemble them. And so within marketing, here are the big areas of sort of like templatized starter kits I've seen be valuable.
Okay.
Number 1, generating leads based on organic thought leadership content on LinkedIn and X in particular.
Okay.
And there's a set of workflows that go into that. There's the content research that we just talked about. There's the coaching that we just talked about. There's the component that looks up everyone who's engaged with my posts and enriches them and qualifies them as a lead and then sends a personalized outreach message to them. So that's one big bucket of like, how can you build a high quality following on organic social and then turn that into leads?
Okay. What's that template called? Let's let the listener think about going to look at that. What was it called?
The first template, so that's a starter kit of actually 7 templates. The first template I would recommend everyone check out is the LinkedIn Content Researcher. LinkedIn Content Researcher. This will do exactly what I described. You'll basically put in for your niche, who are the top 10 people creating the best content on LinkedIn? And then every week it'll send you a report on what is performing well in your niche and give you ideas that would make sense for you.
Brilliant. Got it.
Perfect.
So that's one cluster.
That's
Another
one.
cluster that is YouTube video creation. Again, the principles are the same. Follow accounts who are great at it. Observe their scripts, learn from their hooks, learn from their ideas. There's a bunch of people I follow in the AI space. There's this guy, Jeff Su, 1.6 million followers. Everyone should check him out. He creates great content about how to use ChatGPT for different use cases, and he's a great video maker. And he just had a great video that was like, how do you know which model to pick? And I was like, ooh, that's an awesome topic. Our audience would care about that, but I'm going to do it in a different way in the context of an agent rather than the context of a chatbot. So same idea for YouTube. How do you generate ideas? How do you study who are the best? I have an automated script writer. I have an automated thumbnail creator. I have an automated description writer. I automatically monitor comments on my YouTube videos. So that's another kind of starter pack template. Can I give you one more?
And all these, honestly, I would like
to
list. I think your
and
next post should be like the top 10 templates that you can do. Would be
it's so funny you mentioned that because I have
just for the listener. What's Jeff Su? What did Jeff Su? How do you spell his last name? Do you know offhand? Just so people.
It's Jeff and then SU, and we can include a link to it afterwards.
Great. Okay,
but yeah,
good.
so I have a landing page that we can send people to. when that 40 marketing agents post did really well on LinkedIn, I made a dedicated landing page with all my favorite marketing templates, so, which includes the ones I just mentioned. We can link to that. And I also just published a post on my 101 personal favorite AI agents. About a third of them are marketing, but they also cover finance and operations and personal time management and everything else. So I'm happy to share.
We'll include it in the notes.
Hey, Rex, it makes you kind of warm, doesn't it? It's like your best agent friends.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
in
mean,
fact, the new Time
Time
Magazine Person of the Year is an AI agent. And here's the top 100 most influential AI agents. I think that's the thing we need to do.
There's one more I want to call out for marketers.
Yep.
One more that I don't know your audience will be familiar with, but they need to be familiar with, which is I think Reddit is the most misunderstood and underappreciated place on the internet right now. People have this misconception of Reddit that it's just teenage boys sharing memes. And of course, there are portions of Reddit where teenage boys sharing memes. But Reddit has become the definitive place where communities of like-minded individuals talk about their topic, whether it's a sport or B2B marketing or AI agents. And because it's the place where the most real human conversations are happening, it is now the #1 source for all of the AI models. And so if you care about your product appearing in ChatGPT, you need to make sure you're appearing in the right conversations on Reddit. And that's the brand mentions of you on Reddit. And so I'm actually doing a live build with me 2 days from now where I'll show you how to build an AI agent that can automatically monitor.
Signed up.
Awesome.
I had to write you back and say you're going to let me in.
Yeah. I'll send you the recording afterwards. Great. But I'm going to show you how to build an AI agent that can automatically monitor the subreddits or the communities that you care about for mentions of your brand, questions that are relevant to your value proposition, topics that you may be able to share. And I think this is the kind of way marketers need to be thinking in the future. Like, where in the new world, where are people going to find information and how can I be there?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Outstanding.
Boy,
this is great.
I don't think
I wish we had more time, Greg.
I was going to say, Jake, we're going to have you back. I mean, listen, when you get to 60 marketer AI agents, call us. We'll just do it again.
I mean, it's already the 40 post was 2 months ago, so I'm already at like 65 now.
Okay, well, I guess we had to look
across
100 then.
So this has been great, Jacob. And I know we want to have you back because I know you also have a really good perspective on that AI is both overhyped and underhyped, and actually more underhyped. And I really want to unpack that. But unfortunately, that's it for this episode of Decoding AI for Marketing. I'm Rex Briggs.
I'm Greg Stewart.
Be sure to catch all our episodes, plus subscribe, follow, rate, and review in your favorite podcast app, or check us out on YouTube. You can get transcripts and more information on our website, decodingaiformarketing.com.
Yeah, and we'll try to post as much as what Jacob just said here, as much of those links on here as we can. And to learn more about MMA and other options within that, please reach out to MMAglobal.com or me personally. Thanks for listening.